Hello, Daniel. Thank you so much for joining me on the World Vegan Travel Podcast. I am so happy to have you on the podcast all the way over from Tanzania, where you currently are. Thank you so much for staying up late to talk to me. I really appreciate it. And I'm really pleased to talk to you today about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, which is a very fascinating adventure to have. And we will talk more about that. But tell us a little bit about what it is that you do in the travel space.
Okay. Thank you, Brighde. Thank you for having me in this podcast. My name is Daniel Kyara from Tanzania. I'm an owner of CC Trekking Tours and the Company Limited. With CC Trekking, we do a trekking of Mountain Kilimanjaro. Also, we do safari, Serengeti, Ngorongoro, and Manyara. Apart of that, we're doing environmental cleanup and community outreach. We can help some school students which have a less privilege. We go to the orphanage, a part of safari and other things. And we're doing environmental to grow trees, to clean the national park.
Seb and I were so grateful to you, Daniel. And at the time we first met you, which was now, I think, maybe 8 years ago, a long time ago now. And it was the first time that we had been to Tanzania. And you helped us climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And you did not own CC Trekking at that point. You were our incredible guide, and you were just so amazing with what you did. And when you told us that you had set up your own trekking business, some of our travelers who came with us to Rwanda, they actually came and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro afterwards with you. And they said they had the amazing experience.
When we meet together, I'm doing the guide in one company in Moshi. Now I am an owner of CC Trekking Tours and Safaris. I have a lot of experience to having that to be a guide and now to be a tour operator. So most important is to help each other. To be a company tour operator is to help others. I learned some different things before be a guide, because when you be a guide, you're supposed to be a porter for a few years and then to become an assistant guide and then to be a guide. So the whole system when I'm starting, I'm happy to be a tour leader to help others, because I have a lot of friends, a lot of the youth around me, they live in the poor place. So when I decided to have a company, is to just help each others.
Something I've noticed about so many of the people that we at World Vegan Travel, when we work with people in Botswana and people in Tanzania like yourself, is just how determined they are to try to support their local communities. It's really admirable and so important. So I know that you have catered for vegans on your treks. You helped organize a tasty menu for us when we came and trekked with you many years ago. And all through CC Trekking, you also put together tasty menus for our travelers. But something that's quite interesting is that CC Trekking and World Vegan Travel are collaborating on a vegan trek up Mount Kilimanjaro for next year, and it's pretty exciting. So would you mind telling our listeners a little bit about this itinerary and what makes it special, and then we'll maybe answer some questions that people might have about this trip.
When I meet with you, it's the first time to meet with you when you climbed 8 years ago. We don't know about the vegan travel, about the vegan food. So with you, I learned some few things about vegan, and I work with that till now. In Tanzania, we have some different menu of vegetable, because when you talk about the vegan, it's very important to have a vegetable. Yeah. So with CC trekking, we provide a lot of vegetable and other stuff like what the vegan is supposed to have that. We have a plenty of fruits here, vegetable here. So when we meet with you guys, we can do a better about the vegan travel. It's for us, it's a fact that most of us, we are coming from Tanzania. So most of us we eating meat, lot of meat. But with you, I learn a lot because even myself, I reduce the number of eating meat. Sometimes when you eat meat, you feel like you lazy, something like that. So with CC trekking, when you have a plan to vegan coming, we can give them good and delicious food of coming from vegan.
Absolutely. And listeners, whether you decide to join World Vegan Travel on their trek out Mount Kilimanjaro next year, or if you can't make it for some reason, the dates don't work with you, but you still want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, then I absolutely recommend CC Trekking to you. They have got now considerable experience in hosting. So one of the interesting things about the trek that World Vegan Travel and CC Trekking are doing together is we are doing the 8-day Lenishu route, which is different to the 6-day route that Seb and I did with you 8 years ago. Can you tell me why you and Seb decided to choose this route?
When you were choosing Lemosho route 8 days, first of all, you have enough time to acclimatization. Also, the route is not too tough compared with the 6 days. And also, you have a good view in Lemosho route. And it can give you a possibility to be at the top, to be at the summit of Kilimanjaro, Uhuru there, because you have enough time and enough days.
Yes. Yes. I think that's a really interesting point because for listeners that don't know, 8 days is the total time that it takes to ascend and descend. And it's quite hard because the altitude can impact you. But if you go up more slowly, you're not so tired and you have the time to acclimatize and to get used to the increased elevation. So you're less likely to get sick, you're less likely to have headaches, and you're more likely to be able to attempt the summit. So, can you talk us through, please, what it is that people can expect? Like, what is a day in the life of trekking Mount Kilimanjaro like?
When you're using Lomosho route, during the days, the route is not too steep and it can give a possibility to be there. And all the route is short. It's like it taking 3 hours, 4 hours from one camp to another camp, which is it's helping you to have enough relaxed sleeping, rest to continue with the other days. Yeah. And Lemosho route, you can have a good view when you climb Lemosho route. You see a good view.
Yes. So, can you tell us a little bit about what the accommodation is like when you're climbing Mount Kilimanjaro? Because I think most people have heard that you camp, but I think a lot of people don't understand that it really is camping. The tents and the dining room and the bathroom and all of these things are packed up. Can you talk a little bit about what that's like, please?
The accommodation of Mountain Kilimanjaro, we use a tent. And about the using tent, in that tent, we have a bed, something like a bed, and not a mattress put in the ground, but we put a bed on the inside the tent. And with one client, we can have 3 porters. Also, we carry a private toilet, which is really help for the most of the client. Inside the tent, you're sleeping 2 people or 1 people. It depends. Yeah. And we have a big mess tent, depend how many clients we have to provide with that mess tent. And also we have a kitchen, we have a cook and other people and so much stuff. on the way to go to Kilimanjaro.
Yes, yes. For listeners who might not understand, like a mess tent, I guess, is the place where travelers can relax a little bit, have their dinner, relax in case it happens to rain, play cards in the evening, I guess, and just chill. You mentioned that you have porters joining us. I remember that for just me and Seb, we had a huge team of porters. It was quite surprising. And I imagine that if we run our trip together, we will have a huge number of porters joining us. Is that right?
It depends how many are you. If you have a 20 clients, divide by 3, a part of the chef and then the guide. So the porter help you to carry your stuff. You guys can walk with your day pack. Inside the day pack, you have the water inside. So with that, porters, it really help for the client. Even the food for 8 days, tent, also the guest cooker. So the porter is really help for the most of the clients. We call them a warrior.
They really are. They are so good. And it's always so interesting, listeners, because you leave the camp in the morning with the guide, and then they pack everything up, and then very early in the morning they overtake you, and then they are at the camp with everything set up, including all of the tents when the travelers arrive in the afternoon, in the evening. They work so hard. I imagine that our travelers can carry the things in their day pack themselves, maybe a few snacks or a water bottle and a rain jacket in case it rains and things like that. Are the porters carrying like a suitcase or a backpack? How are the other personal belongings of each traveler carried?
Your client supposed to carry a day pack. Inside of the day pack, supposed to have snacks, to have a water, to have your camera, also the rain stuff, because it's very important. Because when you climb Kilimanjaro, sometimes the rain is come. We call it's changing like a chameleon. So the duffer bag or the suitcase, also we call it duffer bag because the suitcase is difficult to bring up the mountain. So inside of that duffer bag, the porter put the plastic cover to protect with the rain. So with one duffer bag, carry with one porters. The rest of them, they carry some other stuff on the way to climbing Kilimanjaro.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. And something that's interesting is that after the camp has left for the day, there is no trace of anything left, is there? There's no trash because it is a national park. So everything has to be left very pristine. There are some communal toilets if you don't have your own private toilet, like a portable toilet that can be brought with you. But otherwise, it's really just a clean site every time the camp is set up, correct?
In Kilimanjaro, we have a system of trash in, trash out. So every day after leaving to the camp, to porter to make sure that we have a trash. So we wait a trash and then porter carry it till the end of our trip. So that's why you see Kilimanjaro is looking clean because of that. We have a system of trash in and trash out.
Yeah, it's really incredible just how clean and pristine it is. So listeners, if you can sort of imagine this, getting up every day and having a tasty, energy-giving breakfast and then trekking all day and hanging out in the evening and getting to know your fellow travelers, I will tell you, Daniel, that was a very hard night for me. I will tell you a funny story. I don't know whether Seb would appreciate me telling you this story, but and I'm curious because you can tell me if it will be different for our travelers. But we had dinner the night before. We arrived at camp, I think maybe 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. We had dinner. And then you told us, okay, Brighde and Seb, you have until 10 p.m. to rest and to sleep before starting for the summit. And I'm very sad to say that I did not sleep a wink of those 4 hours because Seb was snoring I think when you are at increased elevation, you are more likely to snore. Is that right? So I didn't sleep at all. And then we started the trek up. Maybe you can describe the terrain of that final push to the summit, because it's not the same as before that time. There is something special on that summit day.
When you take 6 days, it's a long day. Remember that you come from Barranco, we skip Karanga, and then you go to Barafo Strait. So because it takes 6 days. With our trip, we take 8 days. So in this time, when you take 8 days, we have a good time to arrive at a base camp, Baraf camp, which is 4,606 meters. So in that time, nowadays, we have a lunch at Baraf there. In your time, you don't lunch because you're coming straight from Barranco, go straight to Baraf. So nowadays, we arrive there around 12 or 11:30, and we prepare for lunch. After that, we have a lunch in the base camp, and you sleep. And after that, around 5 o'clock or earlier, it depends, because most of the time we can share. Sometimes we have a dinner earlier or late, depend of you guys. After dinner around 5, you go back to give a briefing, and then you go back to sleep. Depend how the client feeling, and then you can prepare a good time. We can start around 11 or 12, depend how the client is. From there, when you start 11 o'clock at night, we take 6 hours or more than that to be there. Sometimes we sing a song to make you motivate to be there. And when you reach at the top, we have a signboard. It depends what time, maybe earlier, because we prefer to be at the top around 6 o'clock, which is sunrise. Take a photo and you do something at the top there, take a picture. And after that, we come back. It depends. When you come back to the same Baraf base camp. It depends, because some other clients have a problem of knee. It's difficult for them to go quick going down.
I remember, Daniel, you were absolutely instrumental in helping me personally get to the summit. I remember there were many times where I thought I wanted to quit because it was hard for me. And we'll talk about some strategies on how people can prevent what happened to me. But it's really like gravel. So it's like you take 3 steps up and then you sort of go back down, you slide down 1 step because of the nature of the volcano. It's like that. And I remember you had to really help me dig deep to try to get to the top, partly because I was just so tired, because I hadn't adjusted well, because I'd done such a short trek. And when we actually got to the top, this doesn't usually happen to me, but I remember I was just so surprised that I had managed to go to the top and just accomplished this feat, where throughout the night I just felt desperate that I would never be successful. And then getting to the top was really an emotional moment for me. I will never forget that. So if we were talking about the kinds of fitness level that people would need to have in order to be able to do this trip over the 8 days, what do you think they would need to be able to do to be successful?
The thing is to listen for your guide. Other things, you take advice with your guide, what they tell you. Drinking, eating, get some rest, and also don't give up. Most of the clients, sometimes they are give up to going up. So other thing is motivate. Everything put in your mind. Yeah, to say, I'm doing it. It really helps for most of the clients. I don't need to walk too fast. That slowly. Not too fast. So most of your time supposed to be behind the guide, the lead guide, to arrive at the camp with a safe, with no problem.
Yes. Yeah. It's really interesting. It's so funny that just slowly is so helpful. When Seb and I trek where we live around a lot of mountains. And whenever we're going uphill, we go really slowly. We go so slowly that we never get breathless. And when we never get breathless, it means that we could just keep going for a really long time. So very often people will overtake us and 5 minutes later, we will overtake them because they are just like panting and really tired. So, yeah. So, what should people physically be able to do in order to do this trek? Like you talked a little bit about how they can be successful on the mountain. I'm just wondering what would be the minimum level of fitness that they would need in order to be able to do this trek?
They needed to do some exercise, like exercise. I think in their country where you're coming from, I saw your country have some little bit hill or mountain. You can do a little bit, even if in no mountain, they can do a little bit marathon or go up to stair to make your muscles fit. Because sometimes the muscle sometimes is exhausted, sometimes is tight muscles. Because many people didn't do enough exercise. And the apart of that, even you can go with it, you can go in the gym. You can do that. The other guys go to swimming pool to find out the breath. Yeah. And I know that when you climb Kilimanjaro, some you guys come from not in the country, coming from some other is not in a hill. So maybe you can do a marathon around your side. We can take 1 hour, 2 hours, which is really enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Most people that have a bit more than a basic level of fitness, it's really helpful. And yes, I think there's probably lots of training programs that you could follow. But yes, your suggestion of climbing any hills in the area where you live and even carrying some sort of load, even though you won't be carrying a lot, that would be really helpful. And the stairmaster at the gym, when you're climbing up the stairs, and just improving your cardiovascular and strength. Let's talk about safety first of all. How is it that we can stay safe on the mountain?
We have a guide, which is the doctor, mountain doctor. After dinner, we check others with a pulse oximeter to measure your body. The other thing, we can asking for your client when they are coming from, because they have advice with a doctor. If there's anyone have a problem before, maybe you can take extra care with him or her. And also, it's very important to everyone before coming Kilimanjaro to check their body. Don't worry about when you climb Kilimanjaro. We have a doctor who advise you, who taking care with you. Apart of that, we have a rescue from Mount Kilimanjaro. And the other thing, we have a helicopter for rescue. If the client have a bad condition, we can call for the helicopter to taking you, but it depends with your insurance. We have helicopter here in Kilimanjaro.
Yes, exactly. Daniel, I always recommend our listeners to get travel insurance. And what we're talking about here is emergency evacuation, and probably wanting to make sure that the insurance will cover something like this. What is the summit, the height?
The height is 19,341 feet.
Okay. So it's pretty high. So people will want to make sure that they have emergency evacuation insurance for that, because, for example, I guess if they were to slip and break their leg, for example, they would probably need to be evacuated by helicopter, I guess. And whilst we're taking every measure to avoid getting acclimatization sickness, because we are hiking up slowly, we can never alleviate it completely. It can still happen. So what practices do you have in place in case someone does have moderate altitude sickness?
If we have that problem happen in 4,000 meter, we bring down, when you go down in 3,000 meter, the client feel much better. And before that, because this is happen, come and goes, even when you feel headache, something is up. It's normal up to Kilimanjaro. And to feel nauseous, sometimes it's normal. So the thing is, that's why I tell you that we have a doctor who taking care and advising you up to Kilimanjaro. So we will see if he feeling no good, we can advise him or her to go down, or we can advise him or her to get some rest, and we'll see what continue. Because the problem of Mount Kilimanjaro, problem of altitude, sometimes is happening very suddenly and then it go very sudden. So we need to rest, and then after that We can give you an answer if you go up or you go down. We get some rest. You can have some drinking or take some sweet thing. Because sometimes if you feel dizzy, I think sugar is low, so maybe you can take some little bit of juice or something like that, and you can take a little bit rest. It helps.
So travelers need to follow the advice of
Yeah.
the mountain doctor, right? I see. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And do you also carry oxygen on the climb or no? Is that just for like Everest kind of treks?
We carry oxygen, which is very important up the mountain Kilimanjaro. Even in a national park, they provide oxygen during the camps. They have some oxygen. We carry oxygen. We provide oxygen.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about how the guides are key to helping to motivate our people as they are doing that final climb when they leave at like 10 or 11 o'clock and arrive at the summit just before sunrise, before cloud cover covers up the view. You are also motivating and can help us keep going. You talked a little bit about how people can do some physical preparation before the trip. Is there any mental preparation that people can do?
The mental preparation that people can do, I say it's like a determination. Everything puts in your mind because everything uh, come with your head, with your mind. So when you prepare, it's good to put everything in your head. Sometimes your body is tired, but your mental is fit. So that's why I say that determination is one of the key, one of the helper for most of the clients. Yeah.
I'm imagining that maybe having a mindfulness practice would be helpful and to really putting themselves into situations where they have to be tough and draw on that strength and positive self-talk and all of these kinds of things would probably be helpful. Okay. So something I'm curious about is the kinds of things that our travelers or any traveler going up Mount Kilimanjaro, what is it that they need to bring with them on the trip to be successful in terms of equipment or clothes?
Right. In Kilimanjaro, we have some good equipment like a sleeping bag. We need to have a thick and thin jacket, poncho, a good trouser, and we advise you don't take a cotton. We have some t-shirt which is easy when you get wet. It's easy to dry. So we need to have good hiking shoes, enough socks, head torch with a battery. Also, you need to have walking poles, sunglass, sunscreen, some medical kit. Also, whenever we need to have a thick and thin gloves to help you during the hiking. We're supposed to have that. We need to have a balaclava.
So there are a lot of things that we would need to bring from home, like clothes items, the thermal underwear that you talked about, and socks and things like that. But people can hire some things as well. They can hire some walking poles and some other basic equipment too if they need to, correct?
Yeah, you can hire gloves, you can hire a sleeping bag. But I advise you don't need to hire like a thermal fleece or thermal underwear, which is very important for your body. But the jacket, you or something else, you can hire that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It helps save some money for sure. Okay, fantastic. And I know that about Kilimanjaro, it's the world's largest freestanding mountain. It's a very important mountain for the people in Tanzania. Are there any sort of cultural considerations or environmental considerations that travelers should be aware of to make sure they are doing the right thing in this special place?
In Lemosho, you didn't see the culture. Also, the heart is a culture site. And also, we have some rocks like a zebra rock. You can see when you climb Kilimanjaro. Also, the forest that is like is a culture site because the forest is very important to see, as you see in Machame there. So the all even waterfalls, some rocks, Yeah, the clients, we can see that as a culture.
Something I'm curious about, Daniel, how many times have you reached the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro?
Oh, it's many times. It's like close to 100 times. Close to 100 times now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Do you have any interesting stories to share from that time?
Yeah. I have a fun story about Mountain Kilimanjaro. I remember for the beginning of climbing to the summit, when you climb Kilimanjaro, in that time, you don't have enough equipment. I remember my shoes is broken. So when I climb Kilimanjaro, there's a lot of snow. I used to sleep most of my time. So
Wow.
when I used to sleep, sometimes it's difficult for me to move with the client. What I'm doing, which is fun story, I take off my shoes and I take off my socks and yeah, I wear boots and then I wear socks in outside of my boots. So socks, yeah, it's like a track shoes to helping to don't slippery, which is a fun story.
Do you remember my experience with shoes? Do you remember what happened with my boot?
I don't remember.
Do you
Maybe
remember that, Daniel?
I don't remember that.
Okay, I will share this story because it's quite a funny one. So, when Seb and I decided to go to Tanzania, we were living in Bangkok at the
Yeah, yeah.
time. We had lived in Bangkok for several years and we had hiking boots and we had only used them a few times. They were very, very good boots, but I hadn't tried them before going on the trek because I'd only used them 2 or 3 times before. So they were like new. However, something that's interesting about living in a very humid environment like Bangkok is that it makes the glue in the shoes break away. So, literally, within maybe 3 kilometers of starting the trek, the sole of the shoe started flapping. So, this was, of course, a huge problem because I had literally just started this trek. So, we got some tape and we taped it up.
I remember that.
And then we got to the first.
I
Okay.
remember that.
Of course, it made the sole a little bit slippery, like you said. We arrived at the first camp, and somehow one of the staff, they had like a special needle and special string, and they could sew up my shoe, which they did an amazing job. And then in the meantime, you were able to contact your colleagues in the office and they found a pair of shoes that I could use and they basically came and brought them up for me. It was incredible. So I could still be successful.
It's a fun story.
Do you have any other interesting stories that might help those planning their Kilimanjaro expedition? For example, my advice would be always check your shoes are in very good condition before going.
That even myself, I need to advise with the client, some support to make sure that everything, every stuff is in a good condition, especially the shoes, even the bag. Sometimes when we meet, you come here in Tanzania, sometimes you think that you see the thing is broken, same as you. And the other thing, when you climb Kilimanjaro, you're supposed to be to put everything in your mind. Don't be scared. Everything put in your mind. Also, to feel headache and nausea, that is normal of up to feel in up on the mountain Kilimanjaro. And also even to nauseous, if you feel puke, sometimes it's help for the client. And when you puke, you feel much better. Yeah. So the thing is, from most of the problem come because of the altitude. Just wait and see. Just relax. Your guide is taking care of you. We are not a doctor, but we meet with a different problem with a different client, which is help you to have enough experience.
Absolutely. So you've taken so many people up the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, and I know I was so happy that I was able to do it, even though during the night I didn't think I would make it. For me, it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, but I was just so happy that I had actually been able to do it. And the fact that I had been able to, with the support of you and Seb, I was able to make myself do something that was incredibly hard. And it really has left a lasting impact on me to know that I can do difficult things. I'm curious, Daniel, what are some of the things they say is so special about doing a trip like this?
Most of my clients who take 8 days to be at the top. And many people who are taking 8 days, they are very happy with the 8 days because they give you a possibility to be at the top.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you can also explore Tanzania before or after the trek as well, because, one of the things that we're doing on our trip is we're doing a safari for one day before the trek starts. But, you can relax and enjoy the incredible beaches of Zanzibar afterwards. Tanzania just has so much for everyone. It's so amazing. So we talked a little bit about how porters are such an important part of the experience. They're basically making the trip happen. People cannot climb Mount Kilimanjaro by themselves. They
Yeah,
must
yeah.
be with a support team, correct? What are some of the things that climbers can do to make sure that the porters and guides have an easy time of it?
Obey each others, respect each others, kind with each others, which is really helpful for the guys.
In Tanzania, usually when people go trekking, tips to the porters and the guides are not included. But in this case, the trip price that our travelers pay will have tips included, because that can be quite a lot of money when there are so many people to tip and you want to tip them well. Seb decided to include the tips. And I know Seb is always very generous with tipping. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah.
the porters would be happy with that.
In Kilimanjaro, I know that we have a salary, but as you know, it's not enough salary for the crew. But tipping is one of the good things to show your kind with the porters. And with the tipping, it is really good if all the team is come together, maybe the one of the clients or two of the client, and separate to them, which is very, very good for the porters.
Absolutely. Something I'm curious about, Daniel, is the regulations that help keep guides and porters safe on the mountain. For example, I don't know, but I imagine that there are some rules that tour operators need to follow to make sure that the guides and the porters are safe and healthy. Are there some rules about that? And can you share them?
Yeah, we have some rules to follow about the porters. First of all, to make sure that they have enough food, they eating, they have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they sleep in a good place. And before starting Kilimanjaro, you need to have a final checkup for the crew to make sure that they have enough and a good staff equipment to climb up the mountain. And other thing is about the salary, to make sure that they have a salary after finishing the trip. And we have so many rules to make sure everything is going smoothly and happy and clean.
I can imagine that if those rules were not followed, then maybe you would not be licensed to take travelers up the mountain. I imagine if there were rules were
Yeah, it's
broken
correct.
often. Amazing. So, listeners, I really hope that this conversation with Daniel has inspired you to consider Tanzania as a destination, has made you decide if you want to join a Kilimanjaro trek with World Vegan Travel. And I'll talk a little bit more about the dates and the details with that. Or if you can't make the trip with World Vegan Travel, that you contact Daniel at CC Trekking and he will help organize a vegan summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. So our trip that we are doing is happening next year in 2024 from the 12th to the 23rd of August. And we've actually timed that trek for a particular special event that's happening on the summit day. Can you tell us about that, Daniel?
At this point, we climb at the summit in a full moon. It means that we can walk on there without using a head torch. It's really light. You can see the light all the way up the summit. That's what we mean about full moon. So we can go there, which is really good, amazing. When you climb there, you can switch off your head torch and then you can walk with that full moon. And it's really incredible, really amazing when you climb up there with a full moon.
You and Seb worked together so that our travelers would be climbing the night of the full moon. That's really fun. So it's the 12th to the 23rd of August, 2024. There's a minimum group of 10 people and a maximum group of 20 people. If you are traveling by yourself and you want to have a tent to yourself, that's possible, but there is a single supplement there of $750. And the total price is $9,000. We have an early bird pricing that is still available. The trek itself is 8 days long, but the trip in total is 12 days, 11 nights. We talked about how we have the safari day beforehand, and then we have a party when we get down and then off the mountain. And yeah, it's just going to be a really amazing trip that's, I think, going to be so rewarding. So if travelers are interested in checking out this trip with World Vegan Travel, they can go onto our website. We have the trip on our homepage there. And if people don't want to travel with World Vegan Travel, then they want to contact you, Daniel, what can they do? How can they contact you?
You can go through my website, www.cctrekking.com. You can find me also in Instagram, cctrekking.com. Also with a Facebook, CC Trekking Tours and Safari. With that, you can meet me or even my WhatsApp number, +255 787 804420.
Incredible. Incredible. All right. Daniel, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast and talking about Mount Kilimanjaro with our listeners today. I am so happy and grateful. Thank you so much.